Order for Thursday, January 8th, 2015. Happy New Year, everyone. On our agenda this evening, we have a 7 p.m. public hearing, 342 Winter Street, to consider the application for a request of an extension of time to a previously approved minor site plan review planning board decision dated March 13th, 2013. We have a 7 p.m. public hearing, 188 Lawrence Street, site plan review and special permits for use and land disturbance for construction of 6,900 square foot warehouse located to the west side of the existing structure, in addition to associated parking, drainage, and grading. This hearing has been continued without testimony to January 15th, 2015. We have a 7 p.m. public hearing, 655 to 685 Contituate Road, to consider the applications for site plan review, special permit for reduction in the required number of parking spaces, dimensional relief to off-street parking design standards, and public way access permit to remove 2 existing buildings on the premises, convert a portion of the existing warehouse space to retail, reconstruct the parking lot to provide additional parking, construct a new drainage system, install new lighting and landscaping. Paul Galvani. We have a 7 p.m. public hearing for 100 Clinton Street to consider the applications for site plan review, special permit for use for a portion of the facility to be a restaurant, reduction in the required number of parking spaces, dimensional relief of parking spaces, and proposed outdoor seating area. Said applications are for the construction of a brewery with a restaurant, tap room, construct off-street parking, and associated site improvements, Metro West Engineering. We have a 7 p.m. public hearing, 39 Grant Street, to consider the application for special permit for affordable housing, Section 5H. Said applications are for the conversion of the existing use of commercial office building to 79 residential apartments on 4 floors of the existing building, and to utilize the basement for parking and storage. We have a 7 p.m. public hearing, 39 Grant Street, to consider the application for site plan review, Section 6F, and special permits for use, Section 2A, 2D, reduction in the required number of parking spaces, Section 4B1C, and mixed-use regulations, Section 4G. Said applications are for the conversion of the existing use of the commercial office building to 79 residential apartments on 4 floors of the existing building, and to utilize the basement for parking and storage, Metro West Engineering. Approval not required for 378 Brook Street. We have a town meeting zoning discussion, approval of minutes for December 18th, 2014, administrator's report, member reports, and adjournment. With that, I'm going to just move the approval not required out of order for 378 Brook Street, if anyone's here for that project.
Chris Tordai is. Chris Tordai. Chris Tordai.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can approach. No,
tail end of
it's not a problem. I had a little bit of a cold too, so it's clogging everything. My ears, my eyes are tearing. So we have an approval not required for 378 Brook Street. We were provided the application and plans. We have all required sign-offs from treasurer, from town engineer. So I don't know if board members have any comments or questions, or if you'd like to add anything.
No.
Okay.
I think we need all of it.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Long.
It's a very straightforward approval not required for endorsement, so I don't know if any board members have any comments. I don't. So if no one has any comments, I'll make a motion that the planning board endorse the A&R, which is document number 3-15, entitled 378 Brook Street, approval not required for the applicant, represented by Chris Torda.
And there's a paper plan in the actual file.
Yep. One of these.
Just one of those signed.
Mm-hmm. Let me just pass it down to these gentlemen for a second. There you guys go.
So that's the motion.
There's a motion. Do I have a second on the motion? Thank you, Mr. Colton. The motion was to endorse the approval not required for 378 Brook Street. There's a motion by Ms. Long and a second by Mr. Colton. Any further discussion? I'll just give you another moment.
You've got to wait until
I'll give you another moment.
vote it.
We all set? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the endorsement? Any opposition, abstentions? 500. I believe we have, do you want to start to sign that one? Sign that one, the paper copy on that end. It's blue. Thank you.
Chris, can you scan that and email back to us? Can you scan that and email back to us?
Okay, next we have 342 Winter Street, and the planning board will hold a public hearing pursuant to section 6F of the Framingham zoning bylaw. The Framingham Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 8th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in the Blondie Room Memorial Building located at 150 Concord Street, Framingham, Massachusetts. The public hearing will be held to consider the application by J. Dennis Morgan, trustee of Bainbridge House Realty Trust, for a request for an extension of time to the previously approved minor site plan review planning board decisions dated March 13, 2013. For the property located at 342 Winter Street, said parcel is shown on the Framingham Assessor's Map, sheet 382, block 45, lot 125, and located in the single-family residential R1. The application and plan submittal is on file for review in the Planning Board office, room B37 of the Memorial Building, and available online at www.framingham.gov on the Planning Board webpage. If you'd like to actually approach, Mr. Jones, here. Make it a little easy for you.
Good evening, Angelo Catanzaro. I represent the applicant, Dennis Morgan, who is also with me here tonight. This is a request for an extension for the minor site plan review approval. The approval expires, I believe, on March 13th or 14th of this year, after having been granted by this board on that date back in 2013. This is for a small addition to the Carlisle House nursing home. The construction is being funded, or we were always intending to have it funded by HUD. Our formal application for funding was actually submitted to HUD more than a year ago. We still have not received ultimate approval. We've been informed that that approval is forthcoming. We do, however, have a backup. We have also arranged for private financing if HUD doesn't come through. So one way or the other, we are going to be constructing this project this spring. So we have requested the extension for another 2-year period. I doubt that that length of time will be necessary, but I just thought that it was appropriate because you never know what happens when you're getting into this construction and this kind of financing.
Yep. So this is pretty straightforward, based on the planning board just has to find good cause for the reason for the extension of time. Standard time has been 2 years of extension. A decision has been drafted. It's been reviewed by the applicant and has been distributed to the planning board for review as well several weeks ago prior to the new year.
And it's also in the package that was on our desk.
Yep, it's a paper copy.
Okay. Do board members have any comments or questions? Mr. Colton? This is regarding the extension of time. Regarding the extension of time.
No.
Ms. Long?
No, it's just document 830-14.
Thank you.
But, no.
Okay. Mr. Ortiz? Excuse me.
It's just
This is an extension, yes, of a previously approved. No. This is the first.
I think it's a request to legitimate given the circumstances of
Yes.
funding. I'm okay with it.
Yes, these things can certainly take some time, so,
Longer than we want.
yes. Yes, absolutely. Where this is a public hearing, if anyone has any questions or comments with respect to the extension of time to the previously approved decision for 342 Winter, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms.
I'll
Long.
make a motion that the planning board approve the extension as outlined in document 830-14 dated today, January 2015, for 342 Winter Street, Carlisle House, as presented,
Is there a second on the motion?
until March 14, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr.
second
Mahoney,
that.
thank you so much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposition, abstentions? 500.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the public, just a reminder, 188 Lawrence Street has been continued without testimony to January 15th, 2015 at 7 p.m. The next item on the agenda is 655 to 685 Petitia Road. I'm going to read the public hearing notice for that. Pursuant to Section 4B1C, 4B3G, 5E, and 5F of the Framingham zoning bylaw and Section 6, Article 8 of the Framingham general bylaw, the Framingham Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 8th, 2015 at 7 p.m. in the Oblondy Room Memorial Building, located at 150 Concord Street, Framingham, Massachusetts, to consider the application of Claremont Realty LLC for applications for site plan review, special permit for reduction in the required number of parking spaces, dimensional relief to off-street parking design standards, and public way access permit to remove 2 existing buildings on the premises, convert a portion of the existing warehouse space to retail, reconstruct the parking lot to provide additional parking, construct a new drainage system, install new lighting and landscaping. The property is located at 655 to 685 Petitia Road, Zone Light Manufacturing M1, and Highway Corridor Overlay District, HC. Said parcel of land is shown on the Framingham Assessor's Map, Sheet 346, Block 110, Lot 3. The application and plan submittal is on file for review in the Planning Board Office, Room B37 of the Memorial Building, and available online at www.framingham.ma.gov on the Planning Board webpage. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant to introduce their team, and just to let board members know, we did receive a variety of documents over the past couple of weeks with respect to, past few weeks with respect to the project. So I just wanted to reference that. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right, good evening. For the record, Paul Galvani, attorney in Framingham. I represent the owner and applicant, Claremont Realty LLC. The principal, Robert Orfley, was unable to attend tonight. With me tonight is Brian Nelson, Metro West Engineering in Framingham. And to my left is Jeff Plant. Jeff is with the landscape architect and land planning firm of Paul Finger Associates in Waltham. The architects on the project are HDS Architecture. The location at 655 Kitchitchewit Road has been the site for many years of Central Pools, and also the last several years North End Treats. Those are the 2 identifiable businesses that are on the site currently. There are the existing conditions are 3 buildings which total approximately 21,240 square feet. The plan is to demolish the building that currently houses North End Treats. That building contains about 1,470 square feet. So the resulting floor area of the 2 remaining buildings would be 20,470. So the floor area goes down a little bit from 0.44 to 0.42. The 2 existing buildings will be substantially reconstructed along the existing footprint. However, we are increasing, and I'll the retail use of the site. Essentially what's happening is Claremont Realty, by the way, Robert Orfley owns and operates Central Pools and has for many, many years. And his company was a tenant on this site for quite a number of years. More recently purchased the site and wants to do a fairly significant upgrade of the site. So Central Pools will move into the back building, which will be, which is an old dilapidated warehouse, and that will be pretty much reconstructed, so it will house Central Pools, so its use will go from strictly warehouse, although it's very little of it's actually used right now, so it'll go from retail and warehouse use for Central Pools. The front building will be converted to retail. There is not an existing tenant identified at this point. It could be a single tenant or a multi-tenant building, either retail, could even be a financial institution, or even, a portion of a house, a small restaurant. So there is a possibility that we may have to come in for some minor modifications depending on the particular use of the tenant, but we want to go forward and he does want to go forward and do this project because the site really needs to be upgraded. And the total project costs on this site are estimated in the $1 million range, so it is a pretty good renovation and improvement to the site, and I'm going to let Brian Nelson explain that. In terms of the relief, well, first of all, we appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals with requests. There were actually three variance requests. You have a site that's significantly non-conforming with respect to setbacks, parking spaces, lack of landscaping. So the objective was to try to bring it more into compliance, but it's not possible to bring it into compliance with all of the current standards. So we requested a variance from the floor area ratio. Again, we're reducing it, but it still would exceed the 0.32. The side and rear side yard setbacks for the parking lot and for the percentage of open space. The zoning board granted those requests on June 16th, 20 of this past year. Project has also gone before the Conservation Commission, which just granted and issued an order of conditions. So with that, let me turn things over to Brian and also Jeff. We'll both briefly go over a few of the presentation boards.
For the record, my name is Brian Nelson with Metro West Engineering, and I'm going to start with the board showing the existing conditions. And property is located on the southerly side of Cochituate Road. So on this board, north is coming straight at me or to the right of the page. Cochituate Road is shown on the top right corner here. The three buildings that Paul mentioned, this is the present Central Pools retail store, which is located pretty much in the center of the property. The North End Treats building is located basically on the easterly property lines, a smaller building on the left-hand side, or the easterly side right here. The existing warehouse is out back, southerly side of the property, basically just straddles the southerly property line as well as the southwesterly property line. There's a portion of the building, these two buildings are connected. There's a kind of a dilapidated portion of a warehouse on the property of the Framingham self-storage, so this is not part of our project. The Framingham self-storage facility is located just to the west, this location here. And our property is located about 400 feet or so east of the eastbound Mass Pike off-ramp. The site contains about 1.1 acres or 48,350 square feet. As you can see, there's a small amount of area on the westerly side that's presently vegetated. But out of that 48,350 square feet, approximately 46,000 square feet is presently impervious. So it's either covered by the buildings or pavement, walkways, things like that. There's one curb cut into the site right off of Cochituate Road. little closer to the easterly edge of the property. At the present time, there are no stormwater controls in place. Runoff basically sheds in a southeasterly direction. Elevations decrease from a relative high point at the northwesterly corner, and elevations decrease approximately 3 feet across the property, so it's relatively flat. There are wetland areas located to the west and south of the property as well. So as Paul mentioned, we did get an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. With that, I'm going to switch to the proposed board if there are no questions on existing. And this is a board showing the proposed site. Orientation is the same way. Again, Constituent Road or Route 30 is located at the top right portion. North is coming pretty much straight at me. The footprint of the existing Central Pools building won't change. The building will be basically raised to the foundation and then reconstructed. The North End Treats building, which was located here, will be raised. And the existing concrete warehouse out back, this will be renovated and upgraded significantly. We will have an erosion control barrier basically around the perimeter of the site from the northwest corner to the edge of the building, and then basically from the edge of the building here up and along to the curb cut on Constituent Road. This curb cut will actually narrow slightly in the proposed condition. It's presently about almost 40 feet wide. It'll close down to approximately 30 feet. Stormwater improvements are fairly substantial for this property. As I mentioned before, there are no stormwater controls in place. What we're proposing are 3 areas of permeable pavers. One will be located along the northerly parking area, basically adjacent to the Route 30 sideline right here. There'll be a fairly significant stretch of porous pavers located along the easterly property line, and then a smaller area between the 2 buildings in this location right here. With the porous pavers in place, and basically the construction of some curbing islands, there will be a 9,400 square foot reduction in impervious area. So there's a fairly significant reduction in impervious area. The sections of porous pavement, and there will be some minor regrading of the site basically to really send the majority of the runoff to this larger porous pavement area located along the easterly side. There should be an approximate 50 to 60% reduction in runoff rates and volumes for all storm events. And we looked at a bunch of different options for the site. The permeable pavers, due to the high groundwater levels, are the most practical in this case. There's a pretty comprehensive operation and maintenance plan that was submitted, calling for certainly regular maintenance of the property, but specifically highlighting pretty stringent operation and maintenance for the porous pavement. There will be new utility services. We'll have for both buildings new domestic water and fire services located in this location here, and new sewer service coming from the sewer main out on Constituent Road and servicing both new buildings. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, who will talk about landscaping and lighting.
For the record, Jeff Plant, Paul Finger Associates, Project Landscape Architect. In terms of landscape, it's pretty straightforward. We feel that we've taken advantage of the opportunities created by the additional landscape islands that don't currently exist on the site. We're bringing in all native plant material. We're using oak trees and various other species that are native to the area. So again, because we've introduced areas to do so, the landscape enhancements, I think, just generally add to the aesthetic and functionality. In terms of lighting, yeah, it's okay. Again, the lighting plan, we do have a photometric, and I think you have that in front of you too. Basically, the lighting, the idea is to use a lower level pedestrian level. I think the post top lights are 16 foot. We do have a few lights on the building as well. But in general, again, just kind of keeping with a pedestrian scale, appropriate for the site. Questions on landscape?
We'll get our staff report,
Okay.
and we'll do board questions and then questions from the public. Thank you. Ms. Loomis?
Yeah. So on January 7th, we did have our staff meeting. It was well attended. We had Community Economic Development, Framingham Fire Department, Police Department, DPW, applicants, project team, the Planning Board, Board of Health, Inspectional Service, and Conservation. In your packets between tonight and the past few days, you have received documents from the Department of Public Works dated January 8th, document number 2215. That is really just a reiteration of what happened at the staff meeting, just requesting the applicant to locate a fire hydrant on the parcel. And they were going to take a look at that, trying to determine if they could put it in a landscaped island or some close proximity to one of the buildings. The other item that DPW wanted addressed, and just in documentation, was the applicants providing a 1.5% pipe slope, which DPW construction standards is 2%, but based on the constraints of the site, the applicant can't get to the 2%, so DPW wanted documentation proving that they tried and they could not get there. The other one was Board of Health provided a letter on January 7th, just making sure that the project did not have any noise, dust, pretty much cause harm to anybody, the abutters or wetlands next door. Police Department on January 6th provided a letter dated document number 13-15, just requesting the hours of operation and several other items. During the staff meeting, there were a couple questions brought up from the fire department. One was the request for the fire hydrant. The second one was that wanting to know if the buildings would be sprinkled, and I believe the applicant responded that they would both be sprinkled. The buildings, yeah. And then everything else was pretty minimal. Community Economic Development / ZBA just let us know that the variances had gone through in the summer. And then just the building department wanted to make sure that the protection for the chemical storage areas were protected with a 2-hour wall. The applicant said that was fine as well. The two questions I did have was on the lighting plan, which is SP-3.1. Just wondering if there was a possibility, since the wetlands area is to the west of that area, if we could put like a backsplash so light wouldn't really spill over into the wetlands area, because right now we're at 1, which is great for on the site, but in the wetlands area, if we could decrease that spillover, because we usually like to have 0 at the lot lines. But the use of permeable pavers is something definitely the town is looking to go towards, which is great. There was a couple things that the applicant fixed prior to the actual town staff and the planning board getting the plan, so they had addressed all of those. So we're in good shape. And then the one item that we can't do is along Cochituate Road, the requirement of street trees every 27 linear feet. However, there's a power line, so it doesn't really make sense to put trees underneath the power line. So that's where we're at.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to the board for comments and questions. Mr. Mahoney?
Just one, the stormwater going into the pavers. How is it, where does it go from underneath? Is it just go down into the groundwater? Is the anticipation?
There's about an 18-inch layer of crushed stone underneath the pavers, so there'll be some recharge in there, and then it basically will mix in with the groundwater at that point.
What is the groundwater at that location?
I'd say it's probably about 2 feet below grade, so it's relatively shallow for this site, that's for sure. There's standing water in the wetlands out back, which is probably about 2 to 2.5 feet lower than the parking lot.
Did you run a permeability test on the soils to see if it would accept it, or just?
We did actually some research just through the NRCS website, used a very conservative exfiltration rate, basically based on the Rawls modeling. Used a 1 inch per hour exfiltration rate for soils underneath the gravel.
Okay. That's it for now.
Thank you. Mr. Ortiz?
The one-story metal building on Framingham storage, is it connected to this warehouse?
I think in a pretty primitive way it is connected, yeah.
It's very much. Do they have an access from the warehouse to that story building?
I don't believe so, no.
No, not at all.
No. So it's kind of like a party wall, and the building commissioner wants to make sure that there's a proper fire rate and everything. Obviously, before construction starts, we'll have, they'll have to contact the abutter, and maybe the building isn't used or anything, so, yeah.
There is no access from one building to the other one.
No.
Okay. Because there's no way that eventually this will going to be converted into a bigger project, and the one-story metal will become part of this.
No, it's not on our property.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but it's going to be part of the building. They're going to change the parking scenario.
Correct.
That was my question, because then it's going to be more square footage into the business. Even if there's another property, it'll change that scenario in the parking lot. Okay, so there's no access.
No, nothing.
I see no parking, handicap parking on this corner right here. And I see like it looks like it's going to be another one on the other end. It is going to be 2 or 1 handicap parking
They're actually,
for the store.
there are 2 for the store, and then there's 1 for the building out back. So there's a
Only
total of 3.
one. Basically, here, even when I have the lines on the other end.
Is this the other striped area?
Right.
Okay, so what we did here, this is actually a space that's striped in the event, because essentially we have a little bit of a dead-end parking situation
It
here.
is a dead end. That's what I told to it.
So what we have is actually, so that's not in fact a handicap parking space, but rather a place where a vehicle could get in there and get turned around.
So we'll have room to turn around. It's not a handicap. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as Brian noted, so we do have a total of 3
parking spaces.
accessible
2 in the front
spaces on the site.
and 1 on the back.
That's correct.
See, on the issue of parking, because I didn't get into that, we do have a request for special permit for reduction in parking. There's currently 27 parking spaces on the site alone. If the board's been out there, you'll see that the back area is really it's not suitable for parking right now. The project will provide for a total of 61 spaces. So, that in reality is a significant increase. Well, increased by at least 34 spaces over existing. And also, for the first time, there'll be, improved access, because there'll be a full vehicular access around that building, which does not exist now. So, anyway, we're going up to 61 spaces, which should be more than sufficient for any proposed use of the site in terms of parking.
Okay, Ms. Long?
I have a question to start on. I went through your application, and I just need clarification on, you say demoing North End Treats building, but in your application you say renovate 2 existing buildings on the premises, convert a portion of the existing warehouse space to retail, reconstruct parking lot for additional parking spaces, improve site circulation, construct a new drainage system, install new lighting and landscaping, but there's no mention of demolition of anything in here. So could you clarify the demolition and what you're demoing and what you're not? Because I know you said you're taking out the North End
That
Treats
building's being
totally,
demoed. Correct.
but it's not even in here in this application, which is what confused me.
Well, we don't actually need planning board approval to demo the building.
No, but
Put that
your
part
just
in.
project description
Right.
would be
Yeah.
nice to know what you're doing, what you're not. So the other buildings, your interior, basically interior fit out, you're cleaning that up. Are you doing exterior work too?
Brian, you want to just explain that essentially the one building will be raised to the foundation, essentially, and that's the
Right, that's what I want to know, what you're doing
Building.
to all the buildings.
Correct.
One you're taking out totally.
one is gone completely. One will be raised to the foundation and essentially rebuilt from there. And the back building, the existing warehouse building, is what we would call basically a rehabilitation. Structurally, that building will remain, and it will be basically retrofitted and rebuilt.
Right, to fit out.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm in construction, I understand.
There you go.
But I just wanted to clarify what was going on, if you could.
This is the existing Central Pools building. This building will be, the footprint will not change, but will definitely be extensively renovated. North End Streets building is located again on the easterly side. This building will be totally raised, so this building in the post-development condition will be gone. The existing warehouse will be definitely, I think, taken down to the foundation and rebuilt. So this building and this building will remain, and again, this is the building we talked about, kind of the dilapidated warehouse on the abutting property. This is not part of our project.
Right, that's what Mr. Ortiz was referring to earlier. So we get 61 parking spaces. It will slightly increase the tax revenue by, I took down all your statistics. So one thing I have to say at the beginning is obviously this won't trigger any kind of mitigation because there's no traffic or they're looking for traffic. Several waivers, sign, isometric, traffic, informational meeting. So, let's see. Bear with me for a minute. So basically, you're not really changing the square footage. You're just kind of moving things around because you're taking out one building. And
Well, we
you're
are
actually reducing
reducing
it
the square footage by the amount of the
1,400.
North End Streets building.
Right, but other than that, you're just using what's there. You're not really changing the site. I saw the DPW letter, and
Right.
you kind of already get a clean letter on most of your departments. So I'm happy to see the site get cleaned up because it is kind of a shipwreck. So it was kind of nice to see that come in because we're working on trying to do as much redevelopment as possible. So I'm happy to see it come in and glad to see that. I hate to see North End Street go, but, you know, whatever it takes to get it renovated. So that's it.
Yeah. I, too, I echo the comments that having something taking place and improving that area is welcome, and we're very glad to see that happening. But I do have a number of questions I'd like to get through, if I could. Just curious if you could just give me clarification of the permeable paving that you're using. Could you explain how and what percentage that's going to represent with regards to runoff and how that's been reviewed? Could you get into that a little bit further?
Sure. We have 3 areas of permeable pavers proposed, one on the northerly end of the parking lot close to Constituent Road. It's a large area, runs along the easterly property line, and another smaller area that is located south of the Central Pools building or between the 2 buildings to remain. Basically, the pavers themselves have slots in them that allow water to, pass through the paver and then down into it'll be an 18-inch thick layer of a couple different types of gravel.
Is this a brick?
Yes.
I'm trying to find out what it is that you're using.
It's
concrete, right? It's concrete material, and it's probably, if you can envision kind of you're calling a brick, but kind of a concrete paver, individually laid.
So it's not when they talk about permeable paver, sometimes the whole paver itself is supposed to be, and I have issues with that. What you're talking about is a slotted paver.
That's correct. Right. Yeah, and we selected that one just because of it's more practical. It's easier to maintain.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm sure that you've addressed this issue with the fire department. They've already commented on it, but I'm curious as to how and what the fire department's position was as far as circulation around the building. The back that drive alongside the building doesn't meet the requirements for fire truck accessibility. I'm just wondering how that was approached and what was done on that. I didn't see anything that addressed it, but it doesn't meet the width requirements. What was the take on that?
We reviewed that that was reviewed at the staff meeting, and I'm not sure if it was the fire chief.
David Hagan indicated he had no issues with
no issue with
it. No. I mean, it's because you're improving what's the maneuverability over what's there now, because you should have no access around the first building either. I mean, on all sides of it, I should say.
What are you doing about snow storage?
Snow will be temporarily stored just north of of the northerly pavers. There's a small area between the edge of the parking lot and the property line, and then also there'll be a temporary storage between the buildings, and then one of the conditions of the order from the Concom is basically calling for removal of the snow. So there'll be a stockpile, and then within 24 hours of a storm event, it'll be removed.
But where? I can point out because I don't see where you have the room to do that.
Small area right up here, this is the edge of the parking lot. So there's a small area here which can house some temporary snow storage, and then probably would be the end spaces along this portion of the parking that would stockpile snow temporarily, and then again within 24 hours of the snowstorm it would be removed.
So you're going to take that off site, is what you're?
That's correct, and that's one of the conditions in the order from the Concom.
All right.
That'll also be one of our conditions too.
We don't stockpile in parking spaces.
We don't lose parking spaces to snow.
So.
But knowing
between
it's
the
being
buildings is
removed
not gonna
within
work.
24 hours,
Snow storage.
that's a different story.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Bolton?
I'm still working down my list. One thing I'm curious about, and you're talking about a setback for the parking along the east edge here. But what I'm seeing here is that your abutter, their parking goes right up to the property line. Your parking is going right up to the property line. There's no buffer whatsoever between two layers of parking. Could somebody explain how you're...
The issue there is that if we put a wider strip in, we'd lose an entire row of parking, which really, would have consequences. So we just really can't afford to lose all that. So we're putting in as much landscaping as we can, but still, increase the parking to an adequate number.
I can appreciate that, but what I'm concerned about is that there's no definitive definition of where it ends unless you do something which you're not seeing in here, like a wheel buffer or something that's going to keep one car from, hitting the other one from the other end. You've got literally nothing there. So is something like wheel guards or something possibly being proposed that might at least try to address that issue?
The porous pavers basically run, the edge of the porous pavers are about a half a foot off the boundary line. So there'll certainly be a visual and a textural difference between that and the abutting pavement. So I think that will certainly, delineate the boundary pretty well, but we certainly could add wheel stops. I don't think that would be an issue.
Yes,
Just to follow up on that, according to this, it's vertical granite curb. I'm looking at the layout material planning plan.
Oh, actually it is, that's correct. Yep.
But that becomes a trip hazard with the one next door. There's nothing backing that curve up. But it doesn't make sense. I guess I prefer to see a wheel stop versus vertical granite.
I think that would be fine on our end.
Yeah,
there is a fence along there.
There is a fence along the lot.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, there is a post and rail fence presently.
Oh, okay.
It's shown on sheet SP 2.0 and sheet 2.
So then maybe even the wheel stop makes it more sense than the vertical granite. That way you protect the fence too.
If we can go back, yep, go ahead.
Okay. In the manner in which it's going to be leased out, or how you're going to be using it, one thing I'm recognizing in your new proposed building is that you have two areas of frontage. And either this is a one-tenant building or you're looking at this as multiple tenants. So if there's a multiple tenant, what I'm looking at, does this mean that the access for the second tenant would be on the back of the building, if you will, or what would that be, the west side, on the west end? Because you have doors there, and I'm getting the idea that if this were to be made into a multiple tenant building, you would have west and east frontage and entry. So if that's the case, then the west entry, we look at that as having its own accessible parking, and another issue which I'll bring up as to how signage is going to be treated on the site. So how do you see this being occupied?
There is not a prospective tenant right now. I mean, the building's being marketed, but to my knowledge, there aren't even any negotiations underway right now. I mean, obviously, we're still in just the approval process. So, I mean, you make some valid points.
It could be two tenants.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if that were the case, are you making provisions so that that can be addressed, so that you do meet handicap requirements and you meet other issues that you have to do that if that were?
Yes, we have the flexibility on the parking. If we had to, for example, take one of the accessible spaces from the front, bring it around to the rear, and that sort of thing. We have that flexibility.
But that's something we're all going to have to recognize.
Exactly.
That's going to happen. Okay. And I guess my last question is just how are you treating signage in this case? Because what you've got is Kachitchwood Road. You've got two trees that are in the only area that we have. I mean, really, that's our major landscaping location. You've got trees already there. So what have you got in mind for signage?
Well, there isn't anything proposed right now, not knowing whether it's a single tenant, a multi-tenant. There has not been a proposed sign design yet, so obviously we'd have to file the requisite permit with plans. But we are limited in its, you're correct. We have the two landscaped areas near the entrance, so the area to put any type of a monument sign or pylon sign is fairly limited.
Okay. And just my last comment is that I appreciate the fact that you have adequate lighting on the site. Thank you.
What's that? Just a couple of questions. One, I'm also sad to see North End treats go, but I'm not so sad to see the angled parking go, because that was pretty hairy getting in and out of the site with central pools. Was there any consideration when you have the drive aisle going down the side of the building to have it going down towards the back of the site and looping around? You lose a couple of extra parking spaces as opposed to having that dead end by the existing warehouse building, in terms of having more of a circular pattern for the parking, or basically flow, to have it go through. Well, yes. Well, the direction's the other way with the arrows, but yes, to have that kind of cut through, as opposed to dead ending. We
did explore a variety of different circulation patterns, and really the short answer is to provide those few extra needed spaces for the eventual relocation of central pools into that back area. We just felt that, well, as designers, we're not crazy about the dead end situation either. But again, I think we have, it's not a huge bank of parking, and we have relatively good flow. So this is ultimately where we landed with the circulation.
I'm not exactly thrilled with the dead end either. I know you have that marked off space, for someone to pull into, but even trying to, depending on the size vehicle, maneuvering in and then trying to get back out, with the building behind it, that's an issue that I just raised. Another question I had was respect to deliveries. I'm not so much concerned with the unknown tenant that could occupy, or tenants for the front building, but in terms of central pools, how will that be handled?
It's pretty straightforward.
Given the, width of that drive aisle and the parking?
On central pools, the way it's designed, if you look at the sort of the open air loading dock area, and one of the things we didn't look at was the building elevations, which we certainly can if you want, but essentially almost lined up with the long aisle coming in. There's actually a couple of, there's one loading dock. That, we're envisioning small box trucks type things. We're not going to get anything large.
I don't know what Central Pools currently has. That's why I'm not really focused on the front part of the building.
Understand.
With the tenant unknown, but with Central Pools, I wasn't sure the size of the delivery trucks.
Right.
And how they're going to be maneuvering once they pull in, getting out of the...
They're single unit. I think the movement for them would be, that's why we have the larger radii here on these islands. The movement would be like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So they'd back into...
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's all I have for the moment. And you actually have... I'm sorry, I take that back. You actually have on the proposed new building, you have 3 entrances, or 3 doorways for where the tenant...
Yes, 3 sides.
Okay. All right. Did you have another question, Mr. Bolton?
Yeah, just one, and you just brought that up, and that, the loading dock, you said that's an enclosure?
Open air.
It's open air. It's going to be covered.
There's a roof on it?
Let me flip to the... So the elevation at the bottom, I think this is in your packet as well. What we're looking at is the face on view of the rear warehouse building. So off to the side here is what's essentially, it's open air, meaning it doesn't have a back to it. It's got a facade and it's covered. And that's an area where goods and materials we receive from Central Pools.
Are you including that in the FAR?
Yes. That's in the calculation.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
Just while we're talking that back area,
Yes.
you've got the pool building, if you will, the retail building. Is there going to be outside storage or anything?
Absolutely not.
Where there's a pool out there and merchandise and the whole bit?
It's more of, my understanding is, and Paul, it's more of supplies, and it's not stockpiles of materials and pieces of swimming pools and things.
Didn't they have a pool out there? Don't they?
They did.
Yeah.
We're not going to have room to do that now. Well, not outside.
There's no space for it.
Also, they load the parking right now with boxes of clothing and everything. That's where they put it, right in the parking, right now. So hopefully that won't happen.
I think we can condition it that way.
Okay? Because right now...
There's not planned to be any outside storage, and with the renovation of this building, he's got plenty of room for storage. So.
That was also a conservation commission condition as well. Outside storage.
Mr. Ortiz?
You only show one entrance to the property, which is going to be in and out. But you have 21-foot entrance, will be 24.
Is there a dimension on there?
Dimension is 24.
Shows 21.
Yeah. Say 21 on my plan.
On the layout materials plan.
Curb cut, that's right.
It might be a typo because the aisle that it's lined up on is 24 feet. Understand that. I appreciate that.
Double check those measurements.
Let him check that. That doesn't.
Yeah, the distance.
That's a good-
Well, if you take a look, if you look at it, if you look at from the curbing in front of the building
Yeah.
to the edge of the parking spaces is 24.
Exactly.
Then you look, the entrance is less than 24.
It's 21 because of the island that you're creating for the green.
It's actually scaled to 24.
Well,
I mean,
that'll be correct. That'll be
That
correct.
needs to be correct.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
correct that.
Right now, as I see it, it's 21.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what the entrance was, that truck is coming in and out, so it should now be way less than
We
24.
can correct that dimension.
Okay, where this is,
Yes. I do want to have
Yes.
more because of he's showing
yeah, go for it.
the side of the building where the loading dock.
Yes.
But you also, I also have the dumpster basically right in front of it.
Next to it.
Yes, so that's why the second bay here, you'll see that it's sort of gated.
So the dumpster is on the second base.
Because really, the aisle will be kind of in line with my pen, and the dumpster that's not shown is kind of blocking a portion of this bay. And sort of storage on the inside, not accessible.
Okay. Here, this is a public hearing. If anyone has any comments or questions on the proposal for 655 Cottichit Road. Seeing, yes, please approach and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Annette Norton. I'm the abutter, 665 Cottichit Road.
Mm-hmm.
We think this is great.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for any final comments or questions. Seeing none, I will continue this hearing to January 22nd at 7 p.m.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. If the folks for 100 Clinton Street would like to come up and join us at the table. Okay, I'm going to read the public hearing notice. Pursuant to section 22D, 25B, 2B, 4B, 1C, 4B, 3G, 5E, and 6F, 2B, and D of the Framingham zoning bylaw, the Framingham Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 8th at 7 p.m. in the Oblondy Room Memorial Building, located at 150 Concord Street, Framingham, Massachusetts, to consider the application of Jack Abbey's Brewing for applications for site plan review, special permit for use for a portion of the facility to be a restaurant, reduction in the required number of parking spaces, dimensional relief of parking spaces, and proposed outdoor seating area. Said applications are for the construction of a brewery with a restaurant tap room, construct off-street parking, and associated site improvements. The property is located at 100 Clinton Street and 48 Grant Street, Zone General Manufacturing M and Central Business CB. Said parcel of land is shown on the Framingham Assessor's Map, Sheet 82, Block 160, Lot 1, and Map Sheet 55, Block 113, Lot 2. The application and plan submittal is on file for review in the Planning Board office, Room B37 of the Memorial Building, and available online at www.framingham.ma.gov on the Planning Board webpage. With that, I know, board members, we did have also a series of documents for 100 Clinton Street. I will turn it over to the applicant and their team to introduce themselves and to provide an overview of the project. Long time no see.
For the record, my name is Brian Nelson with Metro West Engineering, and here tonight with the owners of Jack's Abbey and the applicants. To my left is Sam Hendler. Jack is in the middle, and Eric is on my far left. Just to give you a little background about Jack's Abbey, business was opened in 2011 at their present location at 81 Morton Street. The business is thriving, and basically at this point they've outgrown their existing facility, and basically making the best fit of where they're at right now. In terms of the brewing operation, warehousing, they've got a couple satellite locations. So they're seeking to move to a larger facility, which is located at 100 Clinton Street. That's one of the buildings that was formerly owned by the Avery Dennison Corporation. It's the facility is an existing structure. They're proposing to lease a big chunk of the building, and I'll go into that a little bit in a minute. The expansion will allow for, the new facility will allow for expansion of the brewing operation, warehousing, and it will have the addition of a small retail store and a restaurant tap room. The lease area and the portion of the building that they're looking at leasing is approximately 66,000 square feet. The brewery currently employs approximately 25 employees. The expansion of the operation to the new facility at Clinton Street in the short term should create 10 new jobs in terms of the brewing and manufacturing, and approximately 20 new jobs associated with the restaurant and tap room. The brewery and the tasting room at the existing facility on Morton Street has drawn over 25,000 visitors over the last year, so there is a big draw of folks to the area, and we all feel that the expansion of the brewery to this new facility and the tap room will draw additional visitors, and it will be a bigger draw just to the downtown area in general. With that, I'm going to switch microphones, and I've got a presentation board that I can go through pretty quickly. The existing facility at 100 Clinton Street is located on the block that is bounded on the westerly side by Grant Street, the northerly side by Clark Street, easterly side by Bishop Street, and on the southerly side by Clinton Street, which is actually a private way now. It was discontinued back in the late 1980s, but essentially still used as a portion of the street. And again, the property is the entire block. With the fee interest in Clinton Street, there is an area of about 5.1 acres. For the purposes of our application, we did not count the fee interest in Clinton Street, so the area exclusive of the Clinton Street right-of-way is about 4.8 acres, or 207,284 square feet. The property here, there's also a satellite lot, which is actually not shown on this plan. It's actually shown on the plans in your packet. There's a small satellite lot that's located on the westerly side of Grant Street at the intersection of Davis and Grant. Property is located in a general manufacturing zone. The existing building kind of broken up into two distinct areas. There's the larger portion, which is the westerly portion of the property, connected by a small hallway, and there's a smaller section on the easterly side, or more located in the central portion of the property. This portion is approximately 66,000 square feet, and it's this westerly section that Jack's Abbey has entered into a lease to expand their facility. The building has been vacant for quite some time. It was formerly used as a manufacturing and warehouse facility for the Dennison Corporation, as I mentioned earlier. There are parking areas located off Grant Street. There's an existing parking area located on the westerly side of the building here, and a larger parking area located on the Bishop Street side in this easterly third or so of the lot. There are presently 159 parking spaces, which includes 17 spaces on the satellite lot. None of those spaces are presently handicapped accessible. And total existing impervious area on the site is 195,395 square feet, which boils down to about 94.3% of the lot area is impervious, either covered by building or parking or concrete pad. There are 3 loading bays which will service the Jack's Abbey facility located off Clark Street, and they're located in this location here. And there are additional loading areas actually located in the other section of the building in this location here and another one here. The proposal really includes no modifications, no change in footprint to the existing building. The existing building will remain the same. Exterior renovations are minor in scope. What we're proposing is the restaurant and tap room will be located in this portion of the building, which is the southwesterly corner. We're proposing a small outdoor seating area adjacent to the restaurant, and basically a restriping of the parking in here to provide 5 handicap accessible spaces, which is the access board requirement for the number of spaces we've got on the property. So these entrances will be handicapped accessible. The 2 restaurant entrances, and then there's a warehouse entrance over here. There are the addition of 3 grain silos kind of tucked in between the 2 buildings are proposed in this location here. We'll have a total, the existing number of parking spaces is 163, or 159, I apologize. The proposed parking count is 163, and the zoning bylaw requires 188 spaces. We have snow storage areas proposed here, here, and over here, and actually a smaller area right in here as well. Those are not with any of the striped parking areas. Very minor site work. There are no alterations to existing grades, so existing drainage patterns do not change. There's a de minimis increase in the amount of impervious area, so really no measurable increases in the amount or rates of runoff leaving the site. There is existing site lighting presently. There are a series of wall pack lights located along this portion of the Clark Street side of the building. And then a series of wall pack lights here, and another set along here. There are 2 roof-mounted lights. There's one here, and there's actually one that's not shown here, which actually do a fair bit of illumination to this portion of the property. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Ms. Loomis.
So on January 7th, the Planning Board held their regular technical review meeting. It was well attended. In your packets, you have received a comment letter from the Conservation Commission, which is document 26-15. This is outside of the Conservation's jurisdiction, but they just provided a couple suggestions, I guess you would call them. DPW, document 19-15, which was dated January 8th, 2015. They just had the applicant look at fire protection, such as are there fire sprinklers, etc. Also, the possibility of videoing the existing sewer to determine if the pipes and everything that are there are adequate. And then installation of a grease trap for the restaurant use, which is required if it's not one already installed. The police department supplied a letter, 14-15, dated January 6, 2015. Just wondering where the snow storage location was going to be. We did discuss that in the staff meeting, but if Mr. Nelson wanted to provide that information to the planning board just to make sure that everyone knows there's no conflicts between cars, access, lines of sight, that would be great. And then also the possibility of a security camera, which was requested by the police department for the outdoor seating. Just one real quick thing that we have, just so everyone knows, Clinton Street is a discontinued street, which is now owned by the owners of 100 Clinton Street. DPW does have an easement for the utilities along that roadway, and there was talk about possibly putting parking for Jack's Abbey on Clinton Street. In discussions with DPW, that would be possible if there was still able to maintain two-way traffic along that street, but putting parking there as well. So if the engineer could just look into that for you guys, that'd be great. But this is a project that we kind of want to promote in terms of job creation. There's 40 jobs construction, 25 permanent, and 10 part-time. They're currently going to move their existing facilities from Morton Street to actually downtown Framingham, which we're trying to get up and moving. So this project is viable. It's right next to the Denison Triangle, which has office use and residential use, as well as Phillips Lifeline, which is on the other side of the building. So it's a pretty vibrant area. Other than that, the site plans are pretty straightforward. Existing vacant building coming into use. It's been vacant for well past the time that I've been working here, so I'm assuming longer than that. So,
thank you. I'll turn it over to board members for questions. I'll actually start the other end of the table, Mr. Colton.
No, I'm glad to see something happening over there, so at this point I don't have any questions.
I'm really happy to see something come in there because, we actually had another applicant try to come in a few years ago that I'm just glad it worked out the way it did because this is a much better use. I think this will actually boost the economy to the town, especially to the south side, and lends more towards our goals for development of the town, so I'm really happy to see that. I do have a question about when do you plan on moving from where you are? So when do you plan on doing construction?
If I can get a straight answer from our construction guys, I'll let you know. The goal is fall of this year. In a perfect world, September, October, we'll be starting on that
right,
space.
So I just want to get
more realistic might be this time next year, but we're going to go ahead and say fall of this year.
As soon as possible. Yeah, I'm all for the project. I think it's going to be a great addition. There'll be an increase in revenue to the town for taxes besides job creation. I think it's a good use of the building, definitely. And let's see. Just going over my notes. There's not a real lot to say as far as criticisms, because there's not anything to criticize here. So I congratulate you.
We'll wait until we take public comment. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay. Mr. Ortiz.
Okay. I'm glad that something's going to get done on those buildings. Thank you. I had a question. Are you going to occupy both buildings?
No.
Okay.
Just the westerly portion. It's just the westerly portion, which fronts on Grand Street, so this is section, yeah.
The big one.
Yeah, the big one.
I guess that answered my questions. Why not set the restaurant where the parking is? But this parking is going to be usable for these two? Can be?
Yes.
That's correct. It's open to be used for this side?
Correct. The only exclusive parking will be the parking on our side will be exclusive to us. The parking on the eastern side of the property will be open to any tenant.
He did point out the snow storage.
Yes.
He did designate the areas, and they are on the site plan.
Yeah.
Just make sure that was a question that would be.
Yep.
That's a problem.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney.
Covered everything.
First of all, thank you for sticking with Framingham. I think your business is doing great. You can tell by not being able to find parking down in front of your existing building. My only wish is that the restaurant and pub area or tap room could be closer to the other parking. But I also understand the layout makes sense for you. I am very happy that this is a redevelopment of this site. We're seeing a lot with that 188 Lawrence Street, which is in front of us. We've got on Clark's Hill this whole area with the Denison project being built out. 39 Grand Street, which is coming before us. I mean, there's a lot happening in this area, which is great. So it's fantastic for you, fantastic for the town. You're closer to downtown. Hopefully, when Mass Bay comes in, you'll get some new customers. I think it's great. I just wish that your building was or the parking was a little closer to the building. And being a patron of your present building now, parking is terrible. Can't never find a spot there, which is a good thing for you. Not for me, but it's a good thing for you. So I'm thrilled to death that you guys are coming in and renovating this project. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ortiz, you had another question.
You mentioned that it's going to be a satellite parking in the corner of Grand and Davis Street.
That's correct.
Is that being set already? Because I thought that was on hold because of the question whether it's owned by them or owned by the teachers.
Best of my knowledge, it was owned by Dennison, which I believe is part of the
best of my knowledge, Calare, who's our landlord, owns that. They own that.
Since those numbers are going to be used for this project, is there any way we can find out who's the rightful owner of that piece of property?
Actually, I can submit a copy of it's either the deed or certificate of title. I do have a copy of it that I can get to you, and that there were 5 parcels that were conveyed out by Dennison, and the 100 Clinton Street parcel is one, and then the parcel at the 17 or at Davis Street and Grant Street, there was another parcel that was separate. So I can submit a copy of the deed.
Or at least to just verify the property owner, because it's one thing if it's the same property owner, you're looking to lease the space. You know, if it's,
I know that was a question.
If it's not, then we want to see a lease or what the terms are to know that that parking is going to be there for use of the facility.
Yeah, no, to the best of my knowledge, they are all owned by the same entity.
I just want to verify because we're using parking as a number for your side, so I'd like to verify that really owned by Dennison, because I know there was a question between the Future and there, and it was a fight between. I remember.
Yeah, I can respond to that. I've had conversations with actually the owner of the property who they're going to be leasing from, and he does own the parking lot, 100 Clinton, and then he also owns the other parcel that was up for sale. So that is, it was all together.
It's under the same owner.
Yes,
it is.
Okay, not a problem. All set? Okay, thank you. I do want to, of course, it's just the opening. I do want to echo my fellow board members' comments, for choosing to expand in Framingham and, finding a site that, we'll see through this process, that we just make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's crossed, and that everything kind of works. With respect to the parking in the front, I presume, where it's dedicated for you, your employees would be parking in the east side in that parking lot, or
we would prioritize that off-site lot, this lot that's a block away, to park that first, because that wouldn't be obvious to customers coming into the building. And then, as far away
as it grows, so that Mr. Mahoney doesn't have a problem finding a parking space.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, in terms of, we don't want to create a parking situation where your employees are there for more hours than we hope your patrons are. It makes sense to.
One nice thing is the time most of the employees will be there are the lightest times of the retail space.
Okay.
Employees are there at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 4 in the morning for brewers. That's not, believe it or not, hot times in the retail space. In fact, we would not be open at 4 in the morning. That was
going to be one of my next questions. So you're kind of leading into that. Right. You could just talk a little bit about the brewery and then the retail operations.
The brewery production operations are relatively early. Normal operations anywhere early, potentially for brewers 4 or 5 in the morning to more like 7, 8 for normal production staff. Packaging, which usually runs to 3 to 5 depending on the day. The restaurant retail space, looking at more like 11:30 in the morning. We haven't finalized hours. Weekdays mostly till about 9 at night, potentially on weekends till 11 at night.
Okay. And the outdoor patio area, that's fenced in? Or would that be fenced in?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess this is more of a question for your engineer. In terms of kind of getting into some of those parking spaces off of Grant Street, it would just kind of be a pull into the space scenario.
A couple
it seems
spaces
tight
down at the end
because of the way the width of the drive
It
aisle
constricts as you go further towards the north, correct?
Yeah. So I just wanted to check in terms of safety and in terms of backing out onto Grant Street. In your opinion,
backing out on Grant Street is actually. I'm going to switch.
Yeah.
There are 2 access points to the Grant Street parking area, one here and one here. So there is adequate width so you get down to about the warehouse door to back out and either leave or through this entrance exit or this one. These will get a little bit tighter. So There is a guardrail that's at the back of the sidewalk. It's about 2 feet high, which is kind of a barrier between the back of the sidewalk and the parking lot.
Okay, thank you. And then I see the entrance to the building, and then you mentioned the warehouse door for deliveries. How would that occur?
Deliveries will be at the loading docks.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Where this is a public hearing, I will take any comments or questions. Hold on one second. Yes, Mr. Colton.
Just one question. Was there any discussions about parking on Grant Street or Clinton Street? Is there street parking, and has DPW's agreed, or has there been any discussions regarding that?
Yes, and Amanda actually had mentioned a couple minutes ago, we did kind of approach the subject with DPW. It's a little bit of a gray area with Clinton Street is used as a traveled way, but it's basically a private way, as it was discontinued by Dennison back in the late 80s. So our request was, we're pretty confident that we could put a row of on-street parking on our side of that and still maintain more than adequate two-way traffic. So we're just waiting to get an answer from that.
How about Grant Street?
Grant Street, there is on-street parking.
Yeah.
We didn't include that in any of our calculations,
But there is. Was there any restrictions that was put up, like in other words, from DPW, that you could only park there certain periods of time or limited time or any of that?
Not to my knowledge, but again, that was one of the things we had kind of posed a question for. We still haven't received a final answer.
Great, thank you. Where this is a public hearing, if there are any comments or questions on the proposal, Project Clinton, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Lovewell. I live at 97 Grant Street. My family and some of my neighbors, Joe had to leave. He thought the meeting was at 7. Feel that an open tap room and parking for the patrons of that tap room down Grant Street are not in the neighborhood's best interest. We think that, with school children being let off from their bus right there, that the open tap room would be a bad example. And my feeling is that if you've had 2 beers in the space of a half an hour, you're drunk, and don't really need 100 people a day leaving a tap room and trying to navigate through the neighborhood. We're not really opposed to there being a brewery there, although we'd probably prefer they just bottle water. But we just think that it's a bad idea. And as far as the college is concerned, I don't know anybody who got better grades for being partaking of alcoholic beverages either. I don't see how it helps the neighborhood or Framingham or anything. Just for the record.
Thank you. Ernie, yes, please approach the microphone.
Oh, there's one more thing I'd like to say. If it does go forward, I think we should have resident parking only on Grant Street.
Thank you. Yes, please approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Linda Mahoney, 81 Clinton Street, and we would be right across the street from these folks. We're totally for them coming in. I love your beer. Our only concerns, along with Dennison, who's here tonight, is Clinton Street. And I didn't know it was an own part of the town until recently, but that particular intersection of Grant and Clinton is the second worst intersection in all of Framingham. There is an accident, and this is fact, at least once a week. Most of them are very serious. Most of them end up in our parking lot. We're constantly calling the police or taking care of people. So our only concern, we came here because of Dennison, now we're here because of you, is we would like to see Clinton Street one way going towards Grant, not to be able to come back up. Cars are already zooming down Clinton Street, entering from Concord as a cutoff. Anybody who lives in Framingham understands that. It's one of the worst streets in all of Framingham. Our house is right on the corner, by the way. We would be diagonally across from where you park your cars, and the other park lot you just bought, you would be our neighbor. That's our house right there. So once again, not against you guys, but something seriously has to be talked about. I represent a lot of people, and I don't know why we got picked to come to every meeting, but we've been talking to the police about this for over 10 years, and now you're adding in 79 apartments, you're adding in a bar, which again I'm for, but you have to consider this traffic more than the board is just saying, oh, this is great, because it's not. It's very scary to all of us. My other thing I want to know, because I have to report back to a few people, if that nice gentleman there could just turn the board and explain again what faces Grant and what faces Clinton, specifically the outdoor restaurant, because I can't really explain that back to him because it was facing you guys, if you don't mind.
The only reason it was facing a certain way is because of the cable.
Well, because it's important to you to make a decision, but I just... Well, 30 seconds, just... The outside restaurant, is it facing Grant or Bishop?
So it's actually going to face...
Okay. And you said your hours, what time are you going to be open till?
She said this is going to cause the accident. She's saying this should be open this way.
And 11 for the... Okay, that's really it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes, if I could just respond to both the requests by the residents. Number one, resident parking, I would suggest it, and it goes for both of you, I would suggest you contact the Traffic and Roadway Safety Committee with your concerns. And we meet once a month. You should call the DPW and ask for Adam Keel. He's the person that coordinates the agendas for the traffic and roadway safety. And both those issues, whether it's resident parking in a one-way, goes to that committee for approval first. Then they make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, who are the ultimate board that decides on those particular issues. So.
Yes, if you approach the microphone, state your name and address, or position, I should say.
Holly Andrews, Director of Framingham Downtown Renaissance, and I'm a Framingham resident as well. I just wanted to put in a couple words on behalf of these guys. They're amazing businessmen. They have incredible savvy. They really follow the rules, and they have built their business up incrementally. They've been very smart about the way they've grown. I think they're ready for this next step, and I'm particularly excited. I was uncomfortable. I'm very excited about the fact that they're going to bring a lot of young people to downtown. I think that they're going to have a real positive impact on our little local economy in downtown. So just echoing what Christine was saying earlier. But I really think that we are very lucky that they have chosen downtown Framingham to stay here. They've put us on the map, and we're thrilled to have them, and I look forward to working with them.
Thank you. Are there any other board comments? Yes. Please approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Paul Henler from Putnam, Connecticut. I'm the father of the Jack Savvy guys. There were a couple of comments, and I'm surprised that none of the boys mentioned it. We also had concerns about the location of the parking in its proximity to the front door where the restaurant. Not speaking too far out of school, but our landlord is looking at many, many options for the other part of the building, all of which involve raising it and doing some construction elsewhere on the property or across the street, another piece of property, in which case they have agreed to designate all that's parking that's adjacent to the building that would be left as Jack Savvy parking, which would make the proximity to the front of the building much easier, much more accessible for our patrons.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for any final comments or questions. Seeing none, I will continue this public hearing to January 22nd at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What? I missed the date.
January 22nd at 7 p.m. If I could have the folks at 39 Grant Street come up. And I will open up the public hearing on the affordable housing. Pursuant to Section 2A, 2D, 5H, and 6E of the Framingham zoning bylaw, the Framingham Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 8th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in the Oblondy Room Memorial Building, located at 150 Concord Street, Framingham, Massachusetts, to consider the application of 39 Grant Property Holding LLC for a special permit for affordable housing. Said applications are for the conversion of the existing use of commercial office building to 79 residential apartments on 4 floors of the existing building and to utilize the basement for parking and storage. The property is located at 39 Grant Street, Zone Central Business District, CB. Said parcel of land is shown on the Framingham Assessors Map, Sheet 83, Block 999, Lot 2A and B. The application and plan submittal is on file for review in the Planning Board Office, Room B37 of the Memorial Building, and available online, www.framinghamma.gov, on the Planning Board webpage. If you can discuss this application and as well as address comments that were received from the DPW, Board of Health, and Fire Department on the other application, because we're going to take both the continued public hearing and this application together. So if you wanted to, I guess, address this application and then address afterwards the comments from the boards on the other applications, that'd be great.
Okay. My name is Aaron Cohen. I'm an attorney. I represent the applicant, and I have with me David DePietri, who's the principal of the applicant. About 2 weeks ago, we were here before you to start this process, and Ms. Loomis said that she would be preparing a draft decision, which we hope to get shortly, and we can work through with her and present it to you probably at your next meeting. Primarily, this meeting is about the permit for affordable housing, and I think the easy answer is that the applicant is prepared to meet the 10% requirement for, for units for applicable housing. There was the only comment that I'm aware of. You mentioned, I think, DPW and fire.
Health and fire.
Okay, I frankly don't know if I saw the DPW and the Board of Health comments. As far as fire, they raised the question about standpipes for fire suppression, and that's already part of the plan, so there's no problem with meeting that suggestion.
Okay. Do you have the comment letters handy?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll try to pull them up. I don't know if you want to expand on the affordable housing piece while we're looking for the other comments.
I'm not quite sure what we need to say about that.
You need to show where they are on the plan.
Okay. I'm not sure that we have specifically committed to exactly where they'll be. There are 4 floors, 79 units, so I guess one question is, do they have to be distributed among the proportionately among the different types of units? Remember, there will be 1 and 2 bedrooms, so
correct. They would have to be equally distributed.
Okay, so we can do that. And my understanding is that they shouldn't be all in one location; that they should be spread among the building, and we can do that as well.
Right, and we just need to see where they're going to be.
Okay, I'm not sure.
We have a definite plan.
Like a chart, yeah. Right. How many
I'm not
units,
sure.
what the breakdown
I know we were not prepared to do that. I'm sorry. I asked Amanda what we needed, and she didn't mention that to me, so we didn't do that.
Okay, I did.
I was going to say, I think it's part of the package in terms of the bylaw itself specifies the requirements in terms of the application, too.
Well, that's our fault. I'm sorry we missed that.
Okay. Do you have the comment letters?
Yeah, they're right here. DPWs, we can make a copy of these really quick. 775-14, dated December 15th, 2014. Just the basic I&I fee, etc. Water, 1, please confirm the town of Framingham Fire Department protection is required, which we're already addressed. 2, the existing sewer service shall be videoed, inspected to determine the condition of the sewer pipe is free of any defects and is in suitable condition for the proposed sewer service. 2, please confirm if any floor drains are proposed for the underground garage. If there are floor drains being proposed, any approved Mass Water Resource Authority oil water separators are required. And then just fee, you'll have the water entrance fee to be determined based on $1,000 per inch in diameter, and then the I&I fee to be determined based on $18 per gallon per day. And then that's all we have for DPW. Board of Health's letter just requested that to make sure that the mosquito controls were installed for all sewer drains. So that seems pretty true.
About the oil separator, I think we mentioned the last time that we were here that the oil separator has already been installed.
Okay. And is that noted on the plan? Or information provided to DPW?
Okay, maybe
I don't think we mentioned that last time we were here. We mentioned it in the actual group meeting.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So somehow it could be just some correspondence or tied back either through, Amanda. That way she can forward that to DPW, or that way we can get kind of a clean letter from them. Would be great. Okay. Why don't I throw it to board members for comments and questions? I'll start this way, Mr. Bolton.
Yes, I was not here for the hearing when you had been here. However, we have a regulation called Mullen Rule, in which I made myself aware of all the documents and viewed the videos. So just for the record, having duly submitted papers and affidavits as such, I will be continuing to be part of this hearing.
Ms. Long?
Just through you to the administrator.
Yes.
Where are we in the process of the parking? Because I saw we got a report from the police department that made no sense to me. Didn't really have an analysis of the information that they sent us, which is rather irrelevant. So I'm wondering where we are in the process of determination of the parking plan. And the only other comment I have besides as far as the affordable housing, seeing that we're taking it together, is that when you come back next time, make sure you bring us a plan with the denotations of every single unit where they're going to be within those 79, and make it distributed evenly.
So based on the submitted information provided by the applicant for the parking, this actual project requires 99 parking spaces based on 1.2 parking spaces as required in the Central Business District. As we know, they are missing the 5th and the 6th levels of the parking garage. However, based on what they did at 4 Bishop Street, which was every unit had one parking space designated for every unit, and then they could have an additional parking space as long as they were out of the parking garage by 7 a.m. and they could not return to the parking garage until after 5 p.m. That was from the planning board back in, I believe, 2008. There really hasn't been an issue. We did receive a series of photographs with no interpretation or baseline or information provided by the police department for the streets of Freeman, Davis, Grant, and I believe it was Bishop Street. Based on that information there, I can't make any determinations on if there is any type of overflow. But it is permitted currently for an office use, which is much higher demand than a residential use, especially when you get to go and use the CB, which is 1.25 parking spaces. So based on those numbers, and based on the fact that if you did have a condition in your decision for the extra space per unit being in and out at certain times, then it seems, based on my looking at the documentation, I'll continue to look at it, that they actually would be viable for the parking. Based on what the police had provided, the issues were really majority of odd even streets But based on that information, I really don't understand. That might be an issue all over town. So,
So as a follow-up to that, one of the things that brings to mind is that since the town's trying to go towards transportation-oriented or transit-oriented development, where we're encouraging people to use public transportation, I think that's just a consideration towards the parking issue that should be taken into consideration, obviously.
Because they do have enough.
If they have enough parking, and I understand that they didn't put the 2 levels in, this goes back to the other permit way back. But I think if we're trying to move towards downsizing the amount of vehicles that come in and out of the town, it's something to consider, that a reduction or, to consider the parking plan as presented is acceptable. So.
Okay. Mr. Ortiz?
Out of the 79 units, you're going to have accessible unit, right?
Excuse me?
Handicap accessible unit.
I think it's required under the state code.
Correct.
You have to have a certain percentage of it.
Certain percentage, okay. Because we need to know that. Yeah, I don't have no problem with the parking. I mean, I'm very familiar with that parking garage, and it's almost the 2 top floors almost, at least it was almost empty all the time. So I don't have no problem with that.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney?
The only thing I'm concerned with is yes, this was permitted for an office, and it is a higher use, but the way the parking calculations were done with the residential component, hopefully the cars would have left when the office would have come, so there was a little offset as far as sharing of parking, if you will, between the office and residential. Now all of a sudden we've got all residential. So how does that impact the parking requirements? You follow what I'm saying?
I do, but they are on a mixed-use complex. So based on that information, they can't exceed the 70% of one type of use. And so they are still underneath. The majority of the parcels are for commercial or office space.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. Outside of that, it's the only issue that I have.
Okay. Again, I know Ms. Long had already mentioned it, and I mentioned at the opening, is just the regarding affordable housing piece to supply the information in terms of the location, unit type.
Yeah, we'll have that next time.
Okay, perfect. Where this is a public hearing, if there are any comments or questions, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for any final comments or questions. Okay. Now, I'll give you an option as to whether you'd like to be continued to either next week or 2 weeks to give us the information. Perhaps, I don't know.
Personally, I prefer 2 weeks if that's okay.
Sure. We will continue this to January 22nd at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the town meeting zoning discussion. I'll turn it over to Ms. Loomis.
So just a real quick update on the town meeting. Proposed for April 27th or 28th, which is a Tuesday, will be the opening day of town meeting. But in that meantime, we do have a draft TDR that we have reworked, and the board has received the most recent edition of that. Based on that language, it's been reviewed by everyone, as we've already discussed. The only thing that we really need to do is make sure those are the locations we want, and therefore then we can actually do the percentages. So that one is there. The town center, we had a meeting on the Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning last night. Based on that discussion, the Framingham Historic District Commission was there. They presented their findings and the reasons for wanting those parcels, those 5 parcels in addition to other parcels be designated, would just be for the protection, because once they're designated, you can't tear down the building, you can't modify the exterior of the building unless you go through them, and they have stringent standards on anything that can be done to the exterior of the building. Right now, those parcels are vulnerable to anything. They can be raised with just pretty much just demo delay. So there's really no protection for those. And Amy, who is the chair of the Historic District Commission, gave a really great presentation. I'll see if I can get a copy of that, going through the progression from pretty much 34, all the way to present, and showing that the different architectural styles and how it's really been preserved in some buildings, but then you have a building that was kind of demoed and rebuilt in probably the 60s and 70s. So that's what we were trying to get to with that. The rezoning of those 5 parcels is really, it's a catch-22. The Historic District Commission needs the rezoning to get those parcels designated as historic district. So that's what we are at. At this time, I'm going to send a letter with Erica Ojeram, who is the staff member for the Historic District Commission, of the 5 property owners, in addition to all landowners within 300 feet of those 5 parcels, just giving an explanation of what the designation of a historic district is, what the proposed change from B1 to P would be, and then also asking if they had any questions or comments and putting in a self-addressed envelope with mailing. Once we get that information back, we'll know better from there if the people do want to have those parcels rezoned and designated as a historic district, or they would rather not have them. And then they would hopefully provide some suggestions or comments based on what the next step should be. But right now, the properties are on board with with the zoning, but they are kind of leery about the actual historic designation. And then there's the other side of that, where people don't want them to be rezoned, but they want them designated a historic designation. So that's where we're at. So we're going to still be collecting more information, but we need to make sure that everyone's on board before we take an effort moving forward. The other one that we will be discussing for annual town meeting would be the transit-oriented development. We're going to try to bring that forward for annual town meeting. MAPC will be coming to the planning board meeting the first week in February to present the zoning bylaw changes and also the central district outlay, or not, it's not overlay, the boundary changes. In terms of the recodification work plan, we've received no comments to date. Tomorrow is the last day for the deadlines. Really all we're commenting on is not the actual content of the list, but rather the order of the list and something that they would rather see bumped up, pushed back, things that are not on the list be put onto the list, or things be removed. But we have received no comment to date, and tomorrow is the deadline for that. But we are working on a lot of other things regarding zoning, such as the table of uses, the definitions, items that we couldn't make changes to during phase 1. Those are actually being worked on right now internally to get that taken care of, to kind of get the steps moving forward. We also are working on the purpose/intents of all the zoning districts, because right now we have some that don't have it, like the single-family residential, but then we have like B1, B2, and B3 who do have it, but then you get into office professional and you don't have it again, so making it consistent. And then we're working on site plan review, trying to draft that as well. So that's the zoning update, where we're at with that.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes for December 18th, 2014, document number 799-14. Excuse me, if board members had a chance to review the minutes, draft minutes. I'm starting to lose my voice a little.
I know.
Sorry. Too many public hearing notices to read. I don't know if there's any comments, edits, or questions. Yes, Mr. Fulton.
Having viewed the material but not being here, does that?
You wouldn't be voting on the minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
If that's what you're requiring.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the planning board approve the minutes in document 7. 799-14 for December 18, 2014, as handed out to the board.
Is there a second on the motion? Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposition, abstentions? Thank you. 401. I'll get back to Ms. Loomis for the administrator's report.
All right. Last night I did attend the Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning. There was a brief presentation from MAPC regarding the potential overlay or zoning district changes, and also just to step everyone through the same process that has been going on for the past 18 months. I can make that presentation available. But one thing that should be noted that Bob Halpin has put together a video on really what is TOD in downtown and what does it mean. And I believe that can be found on the town's Facebook page and probably on the town's website. It is about 2 minutes long. It's actually really good. Brief summary of what needs to be done and what is going to be done or potentially be done. So that was a presentation. It lasted about an hour last night. Kind of a two-way discussion, just really who is MAPC, what they're doing, and then going and breaking everything down. What's really been occurring at the roundtable events, which we have pretty much every month on Wednesday mornings. The other item that we did discuss with the Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning was the historic designation and the town center, which I just discussed. So there is still questions about that. P versus B1, which is neighborhood business, going from office professional. So we will continue to work and kind of make a determination from there. The Board of Selectmen on Tuesday voted the complete streets policy, so Framingham is now a complete street policy. I'd like to commend Alex on his great efforts on putting that together and leading the process. That was a joint effort between DPW, Board of Health, Planning Board, Community Economic Development, which Alex led and helped really draft and spearhead that. So we are the first community in the Metro West moves to actually put policy, regulations, guidelines, plan in place. That also puts us now in the running for the transportation bond bill money, which the state will be working to issue in the next upcoming months. That hasn't been determined on the process yet, but Alex is on top of that, so he will keep us afloat and moving us forward. So really, other than that, we've just got a lot of things happening in the office, as we've seen in the letter that I wrote out to the board. Record number of projects this year. Just in-house, like if you're just looking at 2014, we had 34 applications come in the door between Jan 1 and December 31st. And then we had a little bit less numbers of decisions, but we had a couple withdrawals as well. So, but that's extremely high compared to 2010, 11, 12, and 13. Also in this year, we were designated as a highlight community for 43D, which is the expedited permitting, which is great. We've only been in there for about 2 years, coming this fall, and we've been able to just take strides on what other people did at the beginning we're really running with. So we have a lot of things that we've accomplished, but we do have a lot of things that will be moving forward in 2015. So hopefully keep moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Are there any member reports?
I don't really have a report, but I just want to thank Ms. Loomis for the wonderful thank you note to the planning board that she put together, thanking the board for the work that we've done. And I want to thank her and our staff for really being the working workforce that's put us all together and made the board what it is. So,
yeah, thank you. That was a really great job, the recap over the past year.
That was only a brief.
Thank you.
Well, then we expect the thesis version soon. Before we adjourn, I think I need one little administrative item because we'll have 4 public hearings on the 22nd. I think we only have 3 for next week, but we'll have 4.
Do you need a...
I'd like to take care of that now.
All right, I'll make a motion. The planning board suspend its rules and regulations to allow for additional hearings on January 22nd.
Is there a second? Thank you. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposition? Abstentions? 500. Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
On the perspective,
Yes.
we have nothing on February 19th. Is that will we be utilizing that date? Because of the possibility I may not be here.
So on January 29th, we aren't going to meet on that day because Tom was away, and that's 5 weeks in January. We do have the possibility, since it is further out in advance, to not meet one of the weeks in February, and I think that was the week that we were looking for, just because it is school vacation for a lot of communities, and also it is President's Week, so some people do take that time off. So if the board was amenable to taking that week off, we can definitely take it off.
Okay.
Then I'm away that day.
I'm away.
That would have been my.
Oh, you're away that too.
School vacation?
Yeah.
Yes.
The 19th. Okay. Well, we're gonna have 2 members down, so yeah.
And I think going into
February
April,
school
too.
vacation, I'm on Florida.
April.
Excuse me.
But I'm not on vacation, I'm working.
All right.
If the planning board was,
Yeah.
they would like to, based on us planning everything ahead of time, we could drop down to 3 meetings a month and be okay. If the board wanted to do that.
Right, that would.
Yeah, that would give also staff a chance to catch up, as opposed to, continually being prepared. Which you guys are great, but continually just preparing for every meeting and not taking care of the other stuff, or things getting shifted, that would be totally fine.
And is there a week in March that you would want to consider, or do you want to wait until we get to February? As long as we have like
when
a
it comes to
3-week.
school vacation, though, I think there's one in April, so that week I would definitely cut out.
I believe we thought
it's the week of the holiday. It's
right, school vacations.
19 to 24.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's the 3rd week, I believe.
Yeah.
So should we just plan on taking the 3rd week off of each month?
Monday's the 20th.
No, it can fluctuate, but I think the school vacation weeks they just want to rule out.
Okay. Sounds good.
And again, just as board members know, as conflicts come up, or just to please let staff know, that way they can add it to the perspective as we're doing planning for even our own schedule.
If you could be around for April 28th, 29th, and the 30th, that would be great.
We wouldn't miss it for the world.
Or someone's got to represent.
I think that's the time I'll book my flight. No, I'm just kidding. No, we'll be there.
Motion.
Move to adjourn?
No.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposition, abstentions, 500-857. We are adjourned. Thank you.
You are watching The Government Channel, a service of the Town of Framingham. The Government Channel broadcasts meetings and events held by the Town of Framingham. Governmental proceedings are cablecast live to inform residents and encourage participation in local government. Some of the programming provided keeps residents abreast of road closings, construction updates, recycling efforts, public safety information, and special events in the community. The Government Channel is the best source for direct access to your Framingham government. The Government Channel. Stay connected, stay informed.